SpiceFM, Kev and Naila, hashtag Spice Drive, Corona. Name of the song is Rhythm of the Night. That's coming through in just a bit. Also, Mel and Kim showing out Get Fresh at the weekend. So right now, it's all about cruising the internet. We've kicked off the second hour of the show on a very high note, and I'm excited, in fact, to welcome you to this amazing show. Remember, we're going to be here till 7 p.m., so just sit back, relax, and enjoy the vibes. Remember, you can stream live on www.spicefm.co.ke. So while I was coming to work, there were protesters who were leaving the city mortuary headed towards town. Yes, and this is still the story of how a young man that goes by the name of Albert Jang was murdered. Yani, you get this story is just so horrific. It gets to show you where we are as a country. There's nothing like progress over here. Guys are still being tackled. Remember even that time, and not just being tackled, guys are even being murdered. Extrajudicial killings are through the roof. Right, so there's somebody who has amazed me. Charles Owino. Yes, Charles Owino is the head of the National Communication Center, and he said something really interesting. He said, first of all, he's calling for transparency and accountability following the mysterious death of a suspect who was, like I told you guys anyway, who was, reportedly murdered in a cell. He was left alone in a cell and murdered. Right, so that's Albert. Now, Owino expressed concern over inconsistencies in the initial report submitted by the Officer Commanding Station, OCS, to the IG, Inspector General of Police. Now, this is what Charles Owino said, and I quote, "The question is, how do you come up with a theory that somebody hit the head if the individual was alone in the cell?" Yeah? And then he says, such a theory might make sense if there were others in the cell who could serve as witnesses. But in this case, there were none. That alone gives a bad image of the police. Sometimes it's better to tell things as they are because you may end up protecting somebody who later destroys your whole institution. And that makes sense to me. You know, how would you know that guy was hitting his head and he was alone in the cell? Hitting his head on the wall. Right? Now, he also says, what I can say is that the autopsy will be very important. We need to know if anyone gained access to the cells at night, and if so, who these individuals were. This is the only police service we have, and it must maintain public trust. If any officer is involved in such a crime, then they must be dealt with and punished accordingly. There's been a bunch of leaders across the country who've, called out the police service over whatever happened at the Central Police Station. But you know what, guys? First of all, let me give you some numbers. When it comes to extrajudicial killings in Kenya, it's crazy. This is just as of last year. According to the ICJ, this report documents that a total of 159 cases of extrajudicial killings and enforced disappearances happened in 2024. Out of the 159 cases, 104, which is 65%, were incidents of police-related killings, while 55, that is 35%, were those of enforced disappearances. So what about this year? We're already midway anyway. Yeah, I think the numbers are probably even more than this, 159, because let's be real, guys. The many parents, many Kenyans who complain about how their siblings, their brothers and their sisters, somehow just vanished without a trace, right? And until today, justice has never been served. You know what I mean? Yeah? It's gotten to a point where if you're caught up, if you're a young person in Kenya and you are arrested, yeah, your family literally starts jumping into conclusions. Guys are saying, you are Rudy. What kind of situation is this? What kind of country is this, man? Just think about this. How many Kenyans, forget about this one that made it to the news. How many Kenyans got caught up in a situation like for Albert, but somehow just because they never made it to the news, the story just vamooshed like that? I kid you not, there are many. There are a bunch, man, and it's scary. It's very scary, man. I feel so sorry for young folks, myself included. It's not like a TM old, right? It's a criminal state that we're dealing with. It's almost as if the cops have always known that they can get away with stuff like this. It's only that now, it's gotten the attention of the country in a very crazy way. Yeah, obviously bouncing off the man of our last year. Yeah. So, obviously the people, not even the person, who are responsible for the killing, for the murder of Albert Jang, I have a feeling they're going to be, they'll be punished. Justice will be served. My problem is, this is like a norm these days, man. You know what I mean? It's just, it's 2025, man. Like, stuff like this should not be happening. You know what I mean? Like, these are the things we used to scare about back in the day, just after independence. In this day and age, really? Nah, man. Nah. And this is a wake-up call to the powers that be. To the institutions that have been given the mandate to serve. That Kenyans are not going to take this thing lightly. Guys are going to retaliate, unfortunately. Right? Because now, obviously, there's a mistrust between the people and the police. The police, I'm not saying all police officers are bad. But that relationship, I promise you, it's done. Do you remember that incident where there was some guy, he was in a gari and then a cop got him off and then he started fighting with the cop. Some young guy. I think alikuwa Gen Z. Yeah? Mari was taken he was arrested, and Kenyans online were bigging him up. Guys were saying that, yeah, that's the way to go. Police officers are rogue on the road. Matatu guys are always fighting with cops, right? It gets to show you, bro, there's so much mistrust, sis. Yeah, it's done. It's done. I heard the former Prime Minister, calling out the police force, saying the people who were responsible for this heinous act have to be brought to book. Yeah. I don't know whether the president has said anything yet, but I'm hoping he will. Things are very bad in the country right now. We're living in the dark ages, literally. So just protect yourself, man. If you're a young guy, and I understand. Your future is stole, I'm sorry. Yeah, but while you're going about your business, just take care of yourself, because you just never know. All these things you're seeing on the news, this is just a drop in the ocean. Too many guys have potered. Yeah? It's crazy, man. This is not a normal country. It's not. I'm not even surprised when I read stories about how Kenyans just, especially younger Kenyans, are just excited about leaving. When you get the chance to leave this country, guys, you won't even think twice. How would you, why should you want to leave the country? Yeah, why can't we just get, jobs? Why can't we have proper, quality service delivery from the government? Why can't we be protected? Why can't we have a good relationship, with the people who protect us? Why is it so bad? Why do things have to be so bad in Kenya? You'd imagine things are improving, but it's not the case, man. Why? Why can't you just act like a civil human being? If you have power, if you've been given the responsibility to serve people, why can't you just act normally, Annie? It bothers me.
You are listening to The Spice Drive, only on 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.